Hello crafters and welcome to the December 2022 release video hop by Altenew. My name is Deepa from Designs by D and welcome back to my channel. I'm going to be showing you how to create this design on these beautiful cards. I have one that's got a peach theme to it and another one that has blue. The one that I did in the peach color is done with some other markers, so I wanted to show you how to do them with the Altenew water brush markers. So we're going to look at that blue one. Now, keep in mind, as with all of these hops, Altenew is giving away one $100 gift card and four $50 gift cards. So don't forget to comment on this video. You have until December 16th and the winner will be announced on December 18th. So don't forget to comment and like and subscribe. Now, here are the products that I'm going to be using. The first thing I want to show you is this gorgeous plate set. It's amazing. It's called Lovely Flowers and it's pretty much the star of the show. That's how I created everything on this card. I'm going to be using watercolor brush markers. This one is the Spring Garden set and there are just a few colors that I'm going to be using here. You'll notice that the peach colors are not in there because I made that with a different set, but I'll show you how to do it with the blue. Now, the first thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to take that large floral image. It's absolutely gorgeous. You can see how large it is. You could definitely use it for a larger A7 card if you're into making that, but otherwise you kind of have it hanging off the edge to make the A2 size card that I'm making here. So I'm going to take my panel, which is just a plain white, actually I think this is the cotton panel. I chose to use this because I felt that it kind of absorbs the color and keeps it in place a little better, especially when I color in the image. So I've attached it to the clear part of my Better Press system. I've put down my plate and now I'm just adding some of the Better Press black ink. Now keep in mind, this is a special ink that is made to be used with the system, but you could use any ink. Just make sure that it's safe to use with watercolors so that it is not water-based. I've gone ahead and I put it through my die cutting machine. You can see the image comes out flawlessly. And then keep in mind, in order to clean off your plate, especially if you're using the Better Press ink, you're going to want to use some archival ink cleaner because this is a different ink formula than the other inks you could use. But really do keep in mind you can use any ink with these plates. So I'll go ahead and return that to the packaging. I always like to keep everything together. And let's take a look at those brush markers. So keep in mind, I have a couple of these I haven't used yet. You can see they still have that yellow ring on there. So when you first get these, you have to remove that yellow ring and then screw on the top again. And then you kind of just have to squeeze it in the center a little bit to get the ink running. That right there, and then just squeeze a bit, not too much, because when you squeeze too much you're going to get a big pool of the watercolor ink kind of coming down. You want it to have just enough that it's just properly saturated, not oversaturated, especially because we're going to be coloring it in and we want the thin lines. So I'm using those four colors there, which are Moss, Emerald, Gray, Evening Gray, and Dusk. So I'm going to start off with the Evening Gray, and I'm just using that flicking motion. I love using this motion when I'm coloring in flowers. It really gives it a nice look. I'm concentrating the gray into the center of the petal and then the edge at the top. And then I'm coming in with the dusk and just kind of going over the whiter areas. So the gray is my shadow, and the dusk is basically my highlight, and we will leave a little bit of white. We're not going to completely color it in. Now keep in mind, these are water brush markers, so I'm basically just coloring this in. I'm leaving some white there, and then I'm actually going to take a paintbrush and some water and I'm going to blend the colors a bit, and you'll notice the difference in the vibrancy when you add the water to the markers. So right now, if you take a look at this, it kind of looks a little muddy, right? Because I'm mixing the dusk with the evening gray. But keep in mind, once I mix the colors together, when it's activated with water, it's all going to come together really nicely, and you'll see how much more vibrant it is. Right here, it's pretty muted, and the colors are very separate. You'll see everything mixed together and just looks so pretty. So you could do this with any color. You could so like if you don't have a darker color, so I only have the dusk, I don't have the other darker colors because this set doesn't have that. But if you do have the darker colors, go ahead and use them. that's fine. Or you could do what I'm using and use a gray. A gray will always give you a darker color of whatever color you're using. Just be careful depending on the, say if you're using yellow, you might want to use, rather than evening gray, one of the lighter grays, because this is pretty dark. And yeah, you can just use your grays like that as well for shading. So we're just going to go ahead and completely color in this image. I started off with evening gray and the dust for my flowers, and I'm pretty much getting those all colored in. And if you wanted, you don't have to add water to it to activate it. You could stick with this muted look because it actually looks, as it comes together, really pretty on its own. So I'm just going to fill in the little buds here now, and then I'll move on to my leaves. And keep in mind, we can use the other method I explained, using a darker green and a lighter green. So I didn't have it for the blues, but I have it for the green, so I don't really have to use the gray with the green. So we'll use the moss as our lighter color, and we'll use the emerald as our darker color. So now I've got all of my flowers done. I'm going to come in with that moss, and this is my lighter color. So I'm actually covering the majority of the leaves with this color, but I always keep some of that white there as my highlight and for where my colors are going to mix together when I add water. So I'll just go through all of the leafy portions here and fill them in as so. For the vines, I'm basically coloring it in all green for the most part, or I'll color it on one end and then the other end and leave the center white. And then I will darken it with the emerald. So now I've colored everything in with the green, I'm coming in with the emerald, and you'll notice that that really creates the depth, right? When you have the darker and the lighter color, or the shadow and the highlight, it really makes your image come to life. So with the emerald, I'm really just trying to touch the very bottoms of the leaves where it meets the vine, and then a little bit on the tip of the leaf as well. Not too much in the center, just a tiny bit, so that when I add my water, everything mixes together and I get my shadows and my highlights. And then the same thing on the vines. So I added the color on either end and kept the center more light. I did the same thing with the emerald. I just made sure I didn't do too much of it. So is this the moss I'm using too? I think I actually used a different color here. So there's actually a lighter yellow called Limeade in the set, and that's what I use for the center of the flowers. You can see I accidentally got a drop there, but don't worry about that. We'll cover that up later. It's just a little mistake. They happen. So now for the moment of truth. So I'm just grabbing any old paintbrush, a smaller one, so I can get into the nooks and crannies of these images. And I'm just adding a little bit of water, not too much, so it's not oversaturated with water. You'll notice that as I take the water, I kind of pull off a little bit on the edge of the cup there. And then all I'm doing is I'm just mixing. I'm blending. So if you were doing Copic coloring or coloring with the Altenew markers, this would be my white blender. Basically, the water acts as my blender, and you'll notice from the colors, from the flowers that just have the marker on them, and then when I add the water, you see the vibrancy has changed. It's much more bright, more vibrant. It really brings everything to life. Now, if you wanted more of that muted look, you could always use that too. It's totally up to you. I'd say that muted look without adding the water would be good for maybe, probably for more somber cards like bereavement or cards like that. But for this one, I wanted it to be lively. So you can see it's gorgeous now. You just let it dry a little bit. Because we didn't add too much water, you don't really need to let it dry too long. We did use, I love that everything coordinates. So you've got the markers that go with the cardstock, that go with the ink. So we used the Dusk ink, right? The Dusk water brush marker. So I just went ahead and grabbed the Dusk ink. And that's what I'm going to use to add my sentiment here. So back to the lovely flowers set, there are some gorgeous sentiments on here. And then there are little sentiment banners, which are amazing. So first off, what I like to do is just position my sentiment where I want it to go on my card panel. Then I hold it in place and flip it. And very carefully, I will let go of the plate, lining it up with that A2 section. And then using the grid lines on the Better Press system, I just kind of line it up. So once that's done, I know it's pretty much in the place that I want it. So I just have to attach my panel to that clear plate again. I always forget which is called what, the chase and the platen. I'm assuming the clear one's the platen and the chase is the the metallic thing that holds the plate there. So now I'm just adding that dusk ink to the friend plate. I'll attach my platen and then put it through my die cutting machine off camera because it is pretty big. And wow, I love the font on that friend sentiment. It's absolutely gorgeous. And the color just goes so perfectly with the water brush markers. That I think is the best thing about the Altenew line is that everything coordinates so well, and you don't have to think because everything has the same names and it's not really hard to figure out, right? So let's go ahead and add the banner. So I forget what the banner says, but we'll see in a minute. I'll go ahead and just make sure I've got it the right side up and just place it where I want it. So I'm just playing around. Do I want it in the center? Do I want it off to the left? Hold it tight, flip it over, line it up with the A2 card on the chase, and then we'll line it up completely with the grid lines. Then we'll add our panel to our platen. Tape that down right in the corners. We'll add our dusk ink. I think it says "You are the best." You can see it coming to life there. And then we'll do the exact same thing. Now I try to kind of wipe off any extra ink that gets stuck to the platform there. Because I did use the cotton panel, it will easily pick that color up. If you didn't use a cotton panel and just plain cardstock, it's probably fine. So I went ahead and put that through, and that looks amazing. Okay, I'm putting it to the side, and I'm grabbing that dusk ink again. I've just got a white piece of cardstock here, and I'm just adding the ink to it. Because what I want to do is create a little lip at the bottom of the card just for a little bit of interest. It pulls together all the blues, and it's going to look really pretty. I'll cut that off. I didn't want to cut a small strip. I kept it a little longer because I do have a whole card base I'm going to stick it on anyways. I'll cut off a little strip from the panel because the panel was exactly A2 sized. Cut off a little bit from the top so I get enough of a strip at the bottom there. And you can see there, that's how it's going to look in the end. So let's go ahead and assemble this on our card base. I've just got a white A2 sized, I think this is a side folding card base. I'm going to attach that strip at the bottom. And then for the actual panel with everything on it, I'm going to grab some craft foam because I want it to have a little bit of lift, a little bit of dimension. So we'll just kind of line it up and cut it out. I never kind of measure anything. I'm the worst at that. But you can see I've got it off center a little bit, so I get a bit of a border there. So it doesn't go right up to the edge, but it's enough that it's going to keep the structure of this panel. I'll attach it with some adhesive and then add some more adhesive to my card base. And then making sure I put this on the right way. I'll line it up on the top edge because it's flush with the bottom of the top of the card. And there we go. So now all we have left is to add some bling. I'm using two sets here, which is the Smoky Quartz Gem Sparkles. And then I've also got that other set there, Glacier Caves Enamel Dots. I always kind of like to use a mix of the shine and the enamel. I think they go together so nicely. And then you get the colors in the enamel dots that, again, coordinate perfectly with the inks, right? So I've gone ahead and I've added some of the lighter blue there. And now I'm adding some of those grayish smoky quartz to go with the gray that's in the flowers. So that's my card for today. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment down below to be able to win, and hop along to the next person. Have a great day, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye.